Braeden Davis is officially back in the lineup for Penn State Wrestling. And if you were uncertain before, this move looks permanent.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Davis looked really good in his season debut for the Nittany Lions, and this move seems to be set in stone here. You are locked on to Penn State Wrestling, and as always, thank you so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. My name is Seyko, and I'm your host of the show, credentialed media member for both Penn State Wrestling and Penn State Football. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Well, Cael Sanderson and company set another record. It's the dual meet streak record done again, but now across the entire NCAA. We're going to talk about what that means and what they're chasing next in terms of history. Cole Mirasola is on a roll. Multiple impressive victories strung together, but this one starts to prove that Mirasola is getting closer to that main group of heavyweights. Braden Davis, though, we're going to begin there because this move set in stone at 141, as it seems to be based on what Cael Sanderson said at his post-match press conference. So part of it is an update on Aaron Nagel, but just that Braden Davis, I mean, this is the right move. This is the correct move given the circumstances. I've said it many times, and I'll continue to say it. I am absolutely gutted for Aaron Nagel and the bad luck that he has when it comes to staying on the mat. It's not a talent issue. It is simply bad luck. But Penn State, as we frame it for the most part, has an embarrassment of riches at a lot of these weight classes. Do we make the case and say all 10, right? But at 141, the fact that you have two All-America contenders ready to go at a moment's notice. You also have Nate Desmond, who is ready to wrestle up to 141 if need be. But this is the right move. To have Braden Davis come off of a redshirt season. You still had that's the thing though, with Cael Sanderson playing lineup chess with all of these wrestlers. Okay, so we know Tyler Casack is taking a redshirt this season at 157, right? That's part of the luxury. That's what I mean when I say an embarrassment of riches, that, oh, you can just casually redshirt Braden Davis. I mean, that's the kind of flexibility that they have. But now they bring him off of the red shirt, and he looked good. Look, that's not going to be the best opponent he's going to see all season at 141. But Tahir Parkins is certainly an up-and-coming wrestler for Rutgers. That's not a pushover caliber opponent. But yes, Davis is certainly going to have to be readier for more elite competition. And that's not to say, okay, again, Davis from start to finish, I mean, riding time was good. He almost had 2 minutes of riding time there. He ends up getting a major decision in his first match back. Another takeaway, he just looks the part at 141. I don't see someone that isn't adjusting to the weight very well or that he's undersized. Honestly, this was the right move for him, that he's kind of gone up progressively like this rather than an overload where you jump up 2 weight classes. And I think the time off for him to focus on, with the idea in mind, right? The idea was that Davis was going to go on a redshirt season. That, okay, there's not as much pressure. I can focus on the little things. I can get savvy with technique. I can go into some freestyle tournaments. But Penn State had him on standby this whole time. The understanding is that, Aaron Nagel, because of his health, you were going to have Davis on standby. And I don't know how long Penn State and Cael Sanderson were thinking that. I imagine that Sanderson, because of the coach that he is, you kind of weigh all your options. I mean, anything can happen in any sport, right? But with Nagel's history and the long-term injury that he's coming off of. And again, Sanderson talked about it in his post-match press conference. He said, and he's like, I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about this or say it, but it sounds like it's severe. This injury, again, it might require surgery based on what coach had said. So this move seems to be there. I don't think Desmond is going to contend here at 141. Davis, who placed top 5 a season ago at 133, got that time to get acclimated to 141. Okay. So, and just train differently. Okay. You're not going, it's kind of the same thing that I said about Josh Barr. No, Davis wasn't injured, but Barr had the time to rejuvenate and get back to full form and then some at 197 because of Connor Mirasola. In a way, Davis kind of had, in my opinion, this similar timeline where, like I said, you focus on some different things in practice. You work on gaining the necessary muscle. You don't put on weight just for the sake of putting on weight. You add good weight. While at the same time, you're just kind of, look, like I said, it's just probably because he hasn't wrestled a match to this point. So there was definitely, the crowd was into it. Davis seemed into it, right? You're just excited. That's your first match. You are itching to get back out there in Rec Hall. And maybe it was kind of a moment type of situation where it's just, oh, everything's kind of coming together here. So we'll see when that moment, now that it's over, that you got your first match out of the way, is Davis going to kind of, settle back in? It's just, like I said, it's kind of the spark of the moment, so to speak. But he's going to have to be ready, right? You're going to go up against a Jesse Mendez. You're going to go up against a Brock Hardy. You didn't go up against Oliveri of Rutgers, who would have been their regular starter. But like I said, Parkin's not a guy that is just going to be a pushover there. So that is a rising wrestler in due time. But you get the major decision. The one thing that I will critique about Davis, though, is the fact that you had the major decision. You gave up the takedown. So that is something that just in a moment's notice, where Davis is susceptible to that at times. And we saw it again. But what I think was different was the quick recovery. You get that escape. You show off your strength. You show off your speed and your tenacity, that you're not just comfortable with a decisive decision victory. Okay. You wanted the major, and you go back out there and you get the escape and you get the takedown just like that. And I think that's the difference there with Davis. Again, I know the caliber of opponent wasn't elite. It's not Jesse Mendez yet. It's not Brock Hardy. That's going to be the measuring stick here for Davis. But the move here to put him back in at 141, you can just defer his redshirt him next season, because Ono comes back into the equation most likely. You have Desmond, Marcus Blaze, 133, 141 is extremely crowded. Maybe you move him up to 149 after Shane Van Ness is done with his Penn State career. So the red shirt is actually going to be even more strategic in due time for Braeden Davis. So that's the situation at 141 right now. Braeden Davis goes back into the lineup, All-American caliber, eager to see how he faces off against Mendez and Hardy. Speaking of someone I was eager to see face off against, somebody who I thought was going to be a challenge, and was. Hunter Catka gave Cole Mirasola a fight, but all the way up until the end. Mirasola showed that there was a clear gap between himself and someone who's been in the sport of collegiate wrestling for a long time. That's a veteran of the sport, and Mirasola looked that much better. We're going to talk about it next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And today's episode is brought to you by Wayfair. The new year is here, and it's the perfect time to reset your routine and refresh your space. If you're spending more time at home, you might as well love how it looks and feels. That's why you should turn to Wayfair. It's a one-stop shop for getting your home back on track. From bedding and mattresses to storage solutions for every room, Wayfair makes it easy to start the year fresh. Wayfair is everything you need for a full home refresh, all in one place. Whether you're updating your living room, organizing your space, or upgrading your work from home setup, Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find exactly what works for your style, but also your budget. You can pick out new bedding, accent pillows from Wayfair, and it will completely change how your bedroom will feel. It's cleaner, calmer, more put together. You will love that you can find pieces that match your style without spending a fortune. Shopping is easy, delivery is smooth, and everything arrives exactly as expected. It'll honestly make getting back into the routine of things this new year feel a lot more manageable. Get organized, get refreshed, and get back on track this new year for way less with Wayfair. Head over to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That is WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Once again, thank you so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. Also, thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network out there. If you haven't already, go check out the all-new Everydayer Club. What is the Everydayer Club? It gives you more access to all your favorite shows here on the Locked On Podcast Network. You will get access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Nittany Lions or any of your other favorite shows, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcasting app. We also get an invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. Go to lockedonnittanylions.supercast.com to learn more or tap the link down in the show notes. Cole is on a roll. Yes, Cole Mirasola has put together quite a few impressive victories over his past few matches. Okay, you have the most recent one against Rutgers over Hunter Catka, 4-2. But to get a pin, to get a tech fall in under 3 minutes, you get that pin in just a little over 30 seconds when you're down at the Journeyman Duels in Nashville, Tennessee. Again, not the caliber of opponents that are going to most challenge Cole here. But that's why we're focusing on this Rutgers matchup, because Hunter Catka, a veteran of the sport, dominated the Pennsylvania high school scene for a period of time. But I know that's high school wrestling. Hey, that's I covered a ton of high school wrestling back in my day over radio broadcasts, and I just remember seeing, that Hunter Catka, geez, I imagine he'll have quite the career in college. Not necessarily, but he's still a challenge. And somebody who is, again, taller, lengthier, weighs more. There was about a 35-pound weight difference between Hunter Catka and Cole Mirasola. Just to add some perspective here, like I want to explain the setup that Cole is going into in these matches. He weighed in at 226 against Hunter Catka and against Rutgers, whereas Catka was weighing in at 261. But this is where Cole is going to find these subtle advantages. The difference in this one was the training, the endurance, the stamina. Cole looked and was able to separate himself well at the end of the match. I don't know that Hunter had anything left in the tank to give, and it looked like Cole could have kept wrestling. That's the conditioning part, okay? The speed, the agility, the technique, you are going to have a disadvantage. That it's obvious. Okay, there's nothing to overanalyze here when it comes to Cole and who he's going to face routinely. A lot of these heavyweight wrestlers are going to have somewhat of a size advantage over him. But can you close the gap in speed? Yes. In this case, he did. Can you close the gap in terms of endurance? He did, significantly. Those look like two completely different wrestlers after about maybe 90 seconds left in the third period. So I was impressed with Cole because he gets the win. In my opinion, it was decisive. It's a 4-2 victory if you're just looking at the scoreboard, but it was in Cole's favor for the remainder of that third period. And like I said, Hunter Catka, okay, this is going to be a test for him. This is going to be a solid measuring stick because it's a Big Ten wrestler. And Jeff pointed it out too. I'm not alone here. When Jeff said on one of the most recent podcasts we did that this is a confidence booster for Cole. And then you carry over what he did at Nashville. This is a great confidence builder across the board. So now you get your Big Ten campaign started off. Josh Barr even added some context to it as well, which is I'm so glad he did. It seems like Cole has a mean streak to him. I mean, those are the direct words from Barr. That Cole has a mean streak. He's nasty. He's got a little bit of an attitude for him. Hey, whatever's going to help you in these contests. So he said, he's like, I'm worried to wrestle that guy. I thought it was funny. It was a little humorous from Josh Barr, but it also added another component that we don't necessarily get to see. I mean, sure, I imagine some people picked it up. If you watch Cole enough, you probably say, oh, there is a bit of a nasty streak to him. But to see it on a day-to-day basis, I think Josh is best to give us that perspective when it comes to that regard. So It's not going to get any easier, to be determined, right? I am so excited to watch that matchup between Cole and Ben Keeter of Iowa. So Penn State travels out, as we know, to Iowa to take on the Hawkeyes. And Ben Keeter, he's in and out of the lineup due to injuries. He did wrestle most recently in the most recent duel against Wisconsin. Iowa was missing a few other starters, but Keeter was back in the lineup after missing time. You want to talk about a measuring stick. You want to talk about a true test here. That is what you're going to find out, because when Keeter is 100%, or if he's at least close to it, that's an All-American caliber wrestler. Intermat still has him ranked number 5, even though he hasn't wrestled a ton of matches yet. They still consider him a top 5 caliber wrestler here at the heavyweight spot. This is a crowded class. Ben Keeter, you're going to boost your confidence significantly if you can pick up a win here, but still a good spot for Cole to be tested. But like, just impressed, just impressed. I want to give some other results before we look broader at what Penn State continues to do in the history books. So Luke Lillidahl gets a win, a decisive win over Aiden Smith of Rutgers, another young up-and-coming wrestler, but 8-3 over Smith to start things. Then Marcus Blaze, how about getting a major decision over Dylan Shaver, who once upon a time was a Big Ten champion at 133, was an All-American at 133 back in the 2024 in the 2024 postseason. We talked about Davis's result over Parkins, 18-7. A lot of scoring there again from Davis. Just some subtle nuances there with Davis that gives me more confidence in him at 141. Shane Van Ness pins Devin Magro, decorated coming out of Bishop McCourt. So knows Jax Forrest, Bo Bassett, Sam Herring, right? Melvin Miller. And then PJ Duke, tech fall over Easton Doster. Mitchell Mesenbrink pins Ryan Ford. Levi Haynes pins Jordan Chapman. Rocco Welsh with a major decision against a top 15 wrestler in Shane Cartagena Walsh. Josh Barr tech falls a former high school teammate of his in Remy Cotton. That's a top 20 wrestler in Remy Cotton, 18-3. And then, as we just talked about, Cole getting a 4-2 win over Hunter Catka. They shut out Rutgers. I know that's not a fully healthy Rutgers team, but that was a top 15 opponent. 78 dual meet victories in a row. Penn State continues to shatter the record books, set unprecedented marks. And I don't think they're finished. There are other records here that they can go capture along the way with this dual meet win streak. What other history could Penn State set? That is coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And this episode is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like college football season. We all know that. The tailgates, the packed stadiums, being right there in the middle of it all. The energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever. But actually getting tickets now, that part used to be frustrating. With long queues, logins, and prices, jumping at checkout. That's why Game Time gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences in just a few taps. You can open up the Game Time app, look at upcoming college football games, upcoming games for any kind of sporting event. Choose your favorite team, and you'll be surprised how easy it is, how fast it is to find great seats. The app is incredibly easy to use. You can go from browsing to buying tickets in just minutes, and probably one of the best features, you get to see the view from your selected seats ahead of time. So there's no second guessing yourself. If you've never been to a venue or a stadium, this is a true game changer, getting to see your POV ahead of time. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets and sporting event tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that is code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Penn State and Cael Sanderson set another record. 78 dual meet victories in a row. So that officially captures the NCAA record at all levels. Division I, Division II, Division III. And they still have uncharted territory to go after. And I think one of which is definitely fairly reasonable. I expect them to capture the next one. We'll get to that in a second. But again, I want to point out how 78, I think for the most part, this is kind of talked about so casually, like, yeah, it's Penn State wrestling. This is a 78 match win streak by a team that spans over the course of 5 years. Penn State has not lost since January of 2020. Or spans over 6 years. I got my math right. Spans over 6 years. Penn State has not lost a dual meet in 6 years as a team. And they're doing it in dominant fashion. They're shutting quality Big Ten opponents out. These are teams that should not be routinely shut out. I know Rutgers isn't fully healthy, but that's not a team that other schools are shutting out. Okay? It's the fact that Penn State is doing it in such decisive, dominant fashion. They're not getting just across the finish line. They're not just winning by a few team points. It comes the Cole Mirasola or Greg Kirkfleet, I suppose, because we're spanning over 6 seasons now, where they barely get this done, and it comes down to heavyweight, right? No. This match was sealed at Mitchell Mesenbrink, and that's probably why he was so excited and why he was cheering, was because his pin secured the victory for Penn State and then got them 78 in a row. And I also want to give the crowd, the fans, give yourself a pat on the back, because I read this in one of the team recaps here. While Penn State is on a 78 dual meet streak victory, Rec Hall is currently on a 78 match sellout streak, if you can believe that. So ironically enough, the fans and the team are in lockstep with one another, where it's a 78 dual meet win streak and then 78 sellout crowds in a row in Rec Hall. How about that? Round of applause for the Penn State wrestling fan base, right? The streak is not going to stop anytime soon. I can guarantee you that much, because this team is definitively the best now that it is truly at full strength. Oh, but the projections and everything, again, that's factoring all the holes that they had in the lineup to start the season. And PJ Duke and Marcus Blaze not being ranked appropriately, so they don't have the proper scoring projection, all that jazz, right? We talked about it, right? But this is the number one team. Ohio State's going to be a fun duel. Nebraska's going to be a fun duel. But I still expect Penn State to win those decisively. It will be entertaining, though, nevertheless. And then here's the next record that they're going after. They still have to go. There's two dual meet win streaks that they can chase. One of them is 92. The other one, I have to do some more research on this, so just kind of take my word for it loosely at this point. 117. So 92 and 117. 92 is at the JUCO level, which is SUNY Delhi. That is held by SUNY Delhi, SUNY Delhi. And then the next one is the NAIA level. 117. Okay, I won't go here and say, yep, I'm confident they get to 117. A lot of things can happen between 78 and 117. Okay, that spans over what, 3 or 4 more seasons, if I have my math correct again. But 92, why should anybody question 92? Why should anybody doubt that they're going to get to 92 wins in a row and surpass that? Because this team is still definitively the best, the number one overall team, both by tournament and team dual meet standards. They only lose Levi Haynes going into next season. Okay, so they win out the rest of this season. They win, okay, what? How many dual meets are they going to wrestle? 13, 14 again? Okay. They'll be able to accomplish that next season. If I have my math right, they'll be able to shatter that record, and they break the JUCO dual meet streak record. So then you can accomplish all levels. The next one becomes 117 at the NAIA level. Here's also something that I just want to put in the spotlight again. Cael Sanderson, the wrestlers, I think, because it's not about, if you're chasing records, if you're chasing accolades, you don't get to the spot if you're Penn State. It's about the process. It's about the day-to-day refinement. It's about being 1% better, ideally more than that. But as long as you get better every single day, because Penn State, Cael Sanderson, They know the formula. They are committed to the process. They love the journey. And then all of these things will basically self-accomplish. These accolades, these mountaintops, you will get there eventually if you stick to the process. And that is why Penn State is where it is, because they don't chase the records. They don't chase the accolades. They are committed to the process of it all. Everything that goes into the sport, every aspect, anything that you can think of, on the mat, off the mat, in the classroom, training, dieting, discipline, everything. That is how you win 78 dual meets in a row. That is how you target 92 and think nothing of it. Everybody's thinking, oh, 92, that'll be easy. Easy, but doable, realistic, because it's Penn State and what Cael Sanderson has built. So Sanderson is honest and genuine when he says we don't really think about that stuff, because then it clouds everything. It's not, because then it goes against why they are doing any of this. It's not about the records for them. And I agree with Sanderson that, yeah, it's probably going to mean a lot more to, it's great for the university. It's going to mean a ton for Penn State University and the fans, as it should. And the wrestlers, when they look back on it and say, yeah, that's pretty cool. I went to Penn State and I wrestled for 4 or 5 years or 6 seasons, and I never lost a dual meet. I was never there for a loss. It's insane to think about, especially when those wrestlers look back on it after they graduated and they're officially alumni. That is where I'm going to wrap things up here on this edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. Appreciate each and every one of you for checking out this episode. For more wrestling content, more football coverage as well. We've had plenty of conversations about the transfer portal, but for all of it, if you are new to the show, subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts, your daily source for all things Penn State sports here, Locked On Nittany Lions.